Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. So today we have a very interesting video that we're going to be speaking about. We're going to be talking about the twin flame dynamic, the soulmate and the twin flame dynamic. Basically, we're going to pull those two together. And I'm going to be sharing some of my deeper understandings and deeper perspectives on exactly what this dynamic is in a way that you've probably have never heard before. And this is going to be coming from a really deep occult, spiritual type of lens, but it's also going to be grounded in a lot of practical understandings as well. All right, this is going to be very valuable to really be able to decipher so that if you ever come across someone that is a twin flame or a real soulmate partnership for you, you can actually understand what it is that you're getting yourself into, and you can understand what it is at its bigger picture. All right. So with that being said, if this is something that you are interested in learning a lot more about twin flames and soulmate connections, this is definitely going to be a video that I encourage you to listen to the very end with, because there's going to be a lot of valuable stuff here. So I will see you on the other side. All right, so the first place that we want to start with this is we want to start with the understanding of the twin flame. So once again, we're going to pair in twin flame and soulmate together with this video. I'm going to be referring to it generally as the twin flame relationship through this content. So twin flame relationships, and I guess I'll start with this. I will start with just creating a little bit of a context to share things and to create a light on certain things. So, I personally do believe I've been in several different relationships in my life. I can easily tell looking back that, the majority of those relationships, I would say actually all of them, were not necessarily soulmate, twin flame types of connections. I want to say I've probably been in 6 relationships or 5 relationships since high school, from high school to where I'm at now. And it's easy for me to kind of tell that most of them were just not those types of deeper connections. Maybe my first girlfriend ever back in high school, there may have been something there that I can feel into. Potentially that was a twin flame connection. But I really don't think it was. I think that was more of a really profound stepping stone relationship. But I have experienced a relationship that really did feel like a twin flame connection. So I can sense the differences and I can see some of the different stuff that has shown up within, your average relationship that I like to kind of refer to as a stepping stone relationship in correspondence to an actual true twin flame relationship. So the reason why I just wanted to start with creating that as a context is just so that you as the listener can have a little bit of an understanding that this is something that I do feel like I have personally experienced in my life, and I have I would say kind of a practical understanding of it from being in the experience. Now, I'm also going to be sharing this deeper perspective on truly what I do believe this twin flame relationship actually is, which is not what a lot of people have talked about before. So the twin flame, okay, this is commonly talked about as two souls that actually share the same soul. So in other words, it's like two individual souls that are like aspects between a masculine and a feminine aspect of the very same soul itself. That's the most common way that people like to refer to the twin flame dynamic as being, and I can completely understand that. And that makes a lot of sense because there is a whole bunch of truth in that. But the reality is that this stuff goes a little bit deeper. You know, there really is like a deeper way to kind of see what's actually going on there and what could be taking place between this type of dynamic. So from what I understand, when it comes to densities of consciousness, we have a series of different densities. Okay, we have the first density, second, third, fourth, fifth, etc., going all the way up to an eighth density, actually. Now, with that being said, at every density, there is a expansion of awareness that takes place. There is more understanding of self. There is more of a connectedness to the source consciousness and cosmic laws and things in that nature. So as humans, we're living in a third density planet currently at the moment that is in a shift, a slow but a sure shift of moving into a fourth density planet. That's why there's so much stuff that's kind of, you know, shifting right now and bubbling up to the surface. But within a typical third density consciousness, this is where we are humans and we have a strong unconscious mind, where it's like we have this consistent amnesia always with us, where it's like, who am I really? Where do I actually come from? What's actually taking place in the bigger picture of things? And my name is Jeremiah and I work at this job. That's who I am. That's what I do, right? So we're still learning how to understand ourselves and understand our deeper roots, basically. So when we look at the idea, though, that there are densities above us, these are going to be densities of consciousness, just like planet Earth. There are going to be other planets. There's going to be other stars that contain consciousness on them, their own civilizations, you could say, their own even species of beings. Now, the interesting thing to also consider into this, and I have a whole video that's already released on my channel that talks about parallel realities as well as parallel versions of you. I highly encourage you to check that video out. Scroll through my channel. Should be one of the more recent videos from this one. The reality is there are going to be parallel versions of you that are actually existing right now in this moment that are in the higher densities. So you might be a human right now, but when we zoom out into the bigger picture, past, present, and future is all happening at this moment. So there very well is a future version of you in the way that we understand time as a human that is existing in this present moment. And this version of you very likely is not a human being. This is probably a different species of being that is existing within a higher density of consciousness, for example, like the fourth density and like the fifth density, right? So with that being said, it really opens up the mind to the concept that, okay, so when we're talking about different types of entities and we're talking about different types of gods and different types of major archetypal spirits, you know, that we kind of venerate and we kind of bring awareness to at a mass collective level, a lot of the times I come from the belief that these are actual extra dimensional beings that are in higher densities that oftentimes represent parts of ourself back to us, because there are future parallel versions of us existing in these complex consciousnesses. Now, I know what I said there can be a little bit hard to kind of wrap your mind around or even understand it. So I'm going to try to make it as understandable as I can. So in the fourth density, there may be a civilization of beings that are very different than what we are as humans. And within that civilization, there is a you. There is a parallel version of you that exists. Now, when we zoom out back to Earth, as the human, we don't know that. We're still dealing with the unconscious. We're still dealing with that amnesia. But now we're starting to gravitate towards a specific energy. I love Archangel Michael. I love Archangel Gabriel. I love Lucifer. I love Lilith and Hecate. We gravitate towards these different energies. And reality is, most likely, these entities are actual complex consciousnesses of a whole entire civilization that is not human and that is existing in a higher density. And the ones that we're gravitating towards the most probably have parallel versions of us that are existing inside of them from a higher density or at a higher density, right? So try to follow what I'm saying. So it's important to understand this so that we can really grasp the idea of a twin flame connection and a twin flame relationship. So if we take planet Earth and then we zoom out to our local solar system, reality is there's life in our solar system that is not human life. There is life in our solar system, even though it's not human. So they don't necessarily have the same physical appearance, physical structures that we do. They're literally in a different dimension where their realities are operating differently, but they are very real. So those versions of you, those parallel versions of you that are actually potentially living in our own solar system, probably become very significant in regards to your awareness of self, meaning they are representations of aspects of you and your higher self. They're not your highest self, because your highest self is the version of you that's lived all the lives and is existing at the highest density that it can exist at. But these are aspects of your higher self. So there might be a civilization living on one of these local planets that we know in a different density, so we can't see them as humans, that is actually containing a parallel version of you on it. And now as the human, you're gravitated towards this entity or this God or this deity or this archetypal spirit, not even aware that the reason why you're gravitating towards it is because there's a parallel version of you that is embodying that energy. And that entire complex consciousness of higher density beings, they form the entity itself. They form that being. Really trippy stuff to think about, but I think that there's a lot of truth to what it is that I'm saying here that not a lot of people, I don't think, understand, of course. So when we bring this into the understanding of twin flames now, what I believe a twin flame actually is I believe it is a parallel version of you existing within one of these complex consciousnesses that are higher density. And it is a parallel version of whoever your twin flame is as well, in that same parallel dimension and density of consciousness, and they actually know each other. Okay, so I'm literally speaking about like in a higher density on a different star or on a different planet, there is some form of a relationship or a connection between you, a future version of you, and a future version of them. And then the way that it manifests itself here on Earth is as if this is a twin flame connection, meaning this is someone that you have this really deep, already, established connection with, and they are also a representation of the same oversoul consciousness that you are connected to internally. So we can look at these aspects of our higher self as oversouls. And this obviously expands. So there's one oversoul maybe living in the fourth density. Then there's another one in the fifth. Maybe there's multiple in the fourth density. Maybe there's multiple in the fifth, and it just expands. And I know this is hard to really grasp. Like the logical mind wants to try to make sense out of all this. And it's one of those things that we kind of have to just realize, like, to fully grasp everything here, we're not in the right space as humans to fully grasp it, but we definitely can have an understanding on what's going on. And that's what I'm explaining. So I believe that when we actually attract, as we are here as the human, as we are, well, let me say this, what attracts you to your twin flame? Well, because you and your twin flame are a part of the same oversoul and literally already have an established relationship in a future life, that means that there is that very, very core similar resonance between you and them. And both of you are divinely placed here to honor your own individual inner processes. And the inner development process for one of those twin flames is inherently going to trigger that same inner process in the other twin flame, and vice versa. So what that means is that you don't have to go looking for or finding your twin flame. You have to honor yourself and learn what it means to be authentic to who you are, being in touch with yourself, being in touch with your body, feeling through your emotions, processing repressed emotions from trauma. Naturally, as you're doing that, you are becoming more open in your mind. You're becoming more receptive to different ideas. You're expanding your spiritual awareness naturally by being authentic and doing the trauma work that needs to be done. And simultaneously, because there's going to be such a core resonance between you and your flame, it's going to have a paralleled effect on them, even if you don't know them yet. Even if you haven't met them yet. They could be on the other side of the world right now from where you are, and your inner process will have a triggering, paralleled effect on their inner process, and once again, vice versa. And there will be this subconscious longing and a subconscious knowing that at some point you're going to come into contact with a person like this, with this person. And remember, this is largely subconscious, meaning you're not aware of it. But there will be like a deep-seated core feeling in your body that will know this. And it's a really cool experience to manifest. So obviously, if you've already met your twin flame, that's a powerful symbol right there. It's a testament to how your inner process is manifesting and how you are now resonating at a frequency level of attracting that person into your life. And it really takes time, because the second those twin flames meet each other and actually come together in person, you could almost think like there's a spark that occurs. This is a very pivotal and a very transformative moment that then takes place in the life of each flame. You think of two twin flames and then they come together, they become an explosion. They become this fire, right? Now, what does that refer to? That's going to refer to this, because there's such a deep connection between each person, they're going to directly trigger some of the deepest core repressed feelings and traumas and wounds inside of each other just naturally, just by being who they are. Just by being completely who they are, it's going to be like a perfect reflection. And why is it going to be a perfect reflection? Because the higher density parallel versions of each of these flames is already governing and understanding the incarnation experience of the human experience. And it's making sure that the energetic circumstances are aligned so that these two flames can do that inner work, so that they can go through similar types of, we could almost say, trauma to understand each other in that, perfect reflective way. And when you meet your twin flame, you're going to feel like, wow, I feel like I know this person. I feel like this person really gets me. Like it's almost like you're going to be like, I feel like I'm looking at myself. And it's going to be at a level you've never experienced before, because you're twins, you're part of that same oversoul. And most likely you also have a relationship within that oversoul consciousness. And there's so much nuance to all of this, because remember, that's a future version of you that in our time hasn't happened yet. But when we zoom out, it's all happening at once. So that future parallel version of you can actually work backwards in time, the way we understand it, and support the flames going through their development process. Because the development of the soul in general, of your individual soul, and how your soul is connected to the source, all things, but also your higher self connections, your parallel versions of you, that's a valuable thing for every aspect of self and the world at large. It's a beautiful thing. It's a win-win thing when we go through proper evolution. So this is really what I wanted to say about the twin flame connection. And I wanted to speak about it from more of an occult lens. I mean, this is stuff that I've kind of received from being an occultist and really understanding these different energies and, communicating with a lot of different entities that people often are afraid to communicate with, that I feel like I have a soul resonance with. And, obviously I've had to dive pretty deep with that stuff and go through a lot of trials and errors, but with where I'm at now, this is what I'm resonating with. This is what I feel like is most accurate in regards to what the twin flame connection actually is. So when two twin flames come together, oftentimes that can be a really intense experience. This is why most twin flames end up going through separations. Okay, you have two people come together, they really like each other, they really love each other. I mean, they're literally reflections of each other in their own rights, but then there's so much intensity behind it. There's so much trauma that comes up. There's so much stuff that starts happening, and it opens up a whole nother layer or a whole nother dimension of going back into the shadow. And that will naturally happen with the twin flame. Think about the nature of a flame. What does a flame do? It lights up the darkness. So twins will often experience a really intense, however long they do, moment, and then that can lead to separation. And then they need to find themselves in solitude, and they need to find themselves in different forms of, working on themselves and actually letting go of the other twin. But the interesting thing is that connection that's really there under the surface, it's going to always be there. And that connection is meant to come together in some form of a unity. It's meant to re-meet itself. But not everyone gets to re-experience the twin flame after a separation, because in order to re-attract that experience, there has to be that commitment to self. And what I mean by that is, if you've met your twin flame before and you're sure that that's what that was, and then you went through a separation, you're feeling that pain from it, and you know that they're feeling that same pain too, but you're still both like afraid of each other in some way, or you're not sure if what it was real or even healthy. What that means is you both need time in solitude. You both need time to reconnect to the core, reconnect to your authentic self, reconnect to your trauma, and be willing to go through that dark night of the soul to process those things. Because those things are going to get pushed into the actual relationship if you're going to do it in person. But the whole design of the twin flame dynamic is to come together in person and find that unity. So there's always going to be that background core resonance that will always attract twins together, no matter what. Like, even if they hated each other and were like, I'll never see you again, I hate you, I don't want anything to do with you, I wish you would die. Like, obviously that's extreme. But even if that's there's still going to be a background unconscious resonance that will always pull them back to that person. This is why twin flame relationships can go through multiple separations before they actually commit to themselves enough to realize, okay, this is what's actually happening here. This is how my trauma's playing out. This is what I'm experiencing. And then it can bring them eventually back together. But this is the reason why twins will end up coming back together. And the only way that they will is if they do commit to their inner process. So if you met your twin flame and you have that intense experience, you know what I'm talking about. If you went through the separation and you've never seen them since, and it's been several years or it's been a long time, and you still feel that resonance of like, dang, could things have been differently with that person? Like, what's going on with that person? Are we going to eventually connect again? The truth is that, once again, this is your twin flame. There's nothing that's going to erase that. There's always going to be a gravitational pull back to each other, but it's literally going to require you to face what you need to face. So you will not come back into contact with your twin if you're not honoring your full authenticity, because it was you honoring your authenticity that attracted the twin in the first place. And then when the trauma started coming up to the surface, there may have been a lot of things that were causing you to react in ways that maybe weren't the healthiest ways, and not see things, and start to get afraid, and then the relationship seemingly got unhealthy and toxic, and then you had to break. And then you both have that time to reflect. And that's where that's where you have to let them go. But you can't let go of the way you feel about them, but you have to let them go. And then you have to face yourself. You have to allow whatever was triggered by the dynamic to now surface through the system. And you have to work with it. You have to give yourself patience. You have to let go of certain unhealthy coping mechanisms and behaviors that you know you're being called to let go of. And this is going to have a parallel effect on your twin. So your twin is going to be influenced by your commitment to yourself. And once again, you have to let them go. So you're not doing it for them, you're doing it for you. But it is true that since you're a part of that same oversoul, your inner process will have a parallel manifest on their inner process and vice versa. So you can imagine that when you go through a twin flame relationship and you go through that intensity and then it leads to a separation, how painful is that when you've connected with the person that reflects you the most and then they surface all this trauma for you and you love them deeply, but then it ends. Now you're in a state where most likely, what are you going to do? Jump back into old patterns, play, a game as if it's not fair. And why does life do this to me? Whatever, like we fall into not being authentic and we fall into not honoring the whole emotional process because it's really uncomfortable when you go through that. But that's also going to, of course, manifest as you not living your purpose and you not being authentic to you. And then it's going to take off the opportunity for you and your twin to reunite and to come back together at some point, if that's something that you're interested in. And here's another layer to add to all this. This is another interesting thing too. There are different layers to where we are in our twin flame development. So remember, everything parallels, but sometimes there are points where one twin is understanding something more than the other twin is. And that can even fluctuate from each side. So that twin can be at a point of resonance where they're kind of moving forward in a direction that's healthy for them, and then the other one's still cycling in certain beliefs and attachments. And sometimes when that resonance shifts, that can also be quite a painful thing because these are twin souls that are meant to, work together in this evolutionary way. So if you find yourself in that position, that's another reason why there might be a separation that occurs. And you just have to honor your inner process, as I said, and work with it and be patient and learn what it means to love yourself and feel through all that pain that might be there. And because we're at a weird place in our collective evolution, our planet is shifting into a higher density, which means there's actually going to be more incarnations of potential twin flame dynamics. So what that means is that there are multiple people out there that are twin flames for you now. There's not a lot, but there are multiple. So if for some reason you and your twin aren't on that same, aren't able to work it through in this incarnation, there is going to be other twins that will naturally come into your life if you are committing to yourself. Because the twin flame relationship is actually a really significant type of connection to help usher in the new collective consciousness and the new shifts to our planet. So they are necessary, and that's why there's more people that are incarnating as those twin flame opportunities, which means you have a series of people that could be that exact twin flame for you, and the person that you may think is your twin flame right now, they have multiple people that can also play that twin flame role for them as well. Reality is, though, if you've met your twin flame and you've connected with them, the reality is most likely things are going to, somehow come together between you and that person, only if you're honoring your inner process and you're learning how to kind of let go of the need to find them or to get them or to, change them. Because it all operates through resonance of self-resonance, and it's just something that's naturally emanating. You just naturally have people out here that are a part of the same oversoul as you are, that are complete counterparts for your inner process, but you will never manifest them trying to get it, trying to find it, trying to keep it, trying to force it when it's not ready. You have to let it go and just be you. And when it shows up, you'll know it shows up. You'll be like, dang, like that's crazy. Like, why do I feel like I know you? Like, why does this connection seem so deep and weird? And, you know, in the relationship where I feel like I experienced some of that twin flame connection for sure, you know, there was definitely a lot of aspects of it that appeared to be quite unhealthy and toxic based on some of the things that we came together and didn't understand together, and how some of those things came through and affected both of us. So, you know, I was not being authentic to myself. She was not being authentic to herself. That turned into something that just became this toxic guck almost for a period of time. But it really showed us, even then, it showed us what was going on under the surface and who we truly are and who we actually are. And there's beauty in that, and there's value in that. And I just remember there was a point where, you know, coming together with this person, meeting this person for the first time in person, I had a vision, and she did as well, of literally our higher selves, which was a paralleled version of us existing in a different oversoul, that were actually together in that consciousness. And then it's like we both had this flash literally at the same time, and it was a really crazy kind of like out of body experience. And it's just kind of, I mean, obviously that experience happened for a reason, and I feel like it's a little bit of a confirmation of what it is that I'm talking about now with what twin flame relationships actually are. So that's pretty much what it is that I want to communicate with this concept here. Twin flame relationships are the hardest relationships to work through, but they are the most satisfying because they're the most in alignment with who you are. You're going to be messy with a twin flame relationship. Every person that I know, which is few, that I feel like are in these dynamics, it's messy as hell. And it's scary, honestly, because you're stepping into such deep layers of yourself that are unknown, and that person's reflecting it so deeply back to you that it's literally outright just scary at times. But once again, as you learn to work with it and learn to kind of like take the space that you need, if you do need that through separation, which does often happen, just remember, like, there's nothing you have to control. There's nothing you have to change or nothing you have to do other than learning to love yourself and allowing whatever surfaces up to be integrated and to be processed. And if you've met your twin flame, wonderful. You know, hopefully this video can help offer that value so that you can know what to expect. And you can also have a bird's eye view on some of the stuff that literally could be going on with this twin flame dynamic. And as I said, it's our planet now is in a stage of shifting so drastically that there are more twin flames that are starting to come together, and there are more twin flame opportunities that are manifesting because the twin flame relationship produces offspring. They make the new generations, and those generations shift the collective consciousness with the family, with the twin flame relationship, into a whole new world, a whole new understanding, a whole new resonance. So that's why there are more twin flames that are seeming to come together at this point in time. Okay? And then let me say this. There's also a lot of people that think that they've met their twin flame and it's not their twin flame. So don't just jump to conclusions and think, oh my God, I love this person so much, they're my twin flame. Don't do that. There's a lot of people that don't really know what they're talking about, and they like to just kind of throw that label onto things, and that never is a healthy thing because you might be attaching to someone that's completely not right for you at all and has been very abusive in your life and isn't reflecting that same energy of the twin flame, and you're now calling them a twin flame, and you're creating a story in your mind about who this person is and what this person is, and they're not even that person. And now you're kind of attaching to it and you're not letting go. So don't jump to conclusions and just say like, oh, this was my twin flame, without giving yourself time to really sit with that and be with it and really feel into it. Give yourself patience. Try to notice, like, did I see those similarities? Like, did I see that really deep core reflection? Was it like one of the hardest intense things that I've ever been in. Was it crazy to surface all this trauma, like, back and forth, was all of those different types of things, right? Like, that's what you need to really sit with to understand. Okay. With that being said, this is what I wanted to talk about in this video. Hopefully this was able to offer you value. And yeah, with that being said, if you enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up, drop down in the comment section. Let me know what you learned from this. I would love to hear your perspective. Let me know if you're with your twin flame. Let me know if you've had an experience with your twin flame. Hit the notification bell and get notified whenever I post. Okay, always get notified when I post because this is valuable information and I post literally every single day at this point. Go to the subscribe button, subscribe to my channel. By subscribing, you're going to further connect to everything it is that I'm teaching. Copy and paste this link and send it to someone that you feel like would also gain value from it. That would be really nice. And, once again, could help spread this information to people that might need to hear it. And now I'm going to take your awareness to the most important link. This is my Patreon. On my Patreon, it's the first link below. I have a whole vault of exclusive content. I mean, everything's over on the Patreon. I have organized different collection sections, everything from an entire magic training course for beginner and even advanced occultists to follow. I have collection sections that talk more about angels and demons and healing trauma and understanding regulation of the nervous system, like literally everything you can imagine. Then as you move into tier number 3 and 4, you're actually gaining access to a really unique ritual service that I offer. It's called the Universe B Ritual. It's a ritual that I perform on the 29th of every single month. It's an energetic transfer from me to you to support you through some of the deepest processes of working with your unconscious mind to surface repressed energy so that you can better, work with it with acceptance. And what this over time really allows you to do is merging with your shadow self so that you can start being more authentic to who you truly are. And then your shadow gets to work with you as an ally, not as a resistance, which is what most people experience. So that kind of falls along the lines of being able to, do less and just being authentic, which naturally leads to doing more at the same time, getting more done by the path of least resistance. So if this is something that you're interested in, I would take a look at it. There's a lot of people that take advantage of this service every single month. At this point, there are about 300 active members that are utilizing this service every single month. So if you're interested in it, it's the first link below. Now, at the second link, this is where you can book a one-on-one call with me, or you can jump right into mentorships. This is probably one of the most powerful ways to personally work with me. We're going to be going one-on-one in very much depth, working on building your foundation to heal trauma, regulate the nervous system. And if you're interested, we can get into the occult stuff as well. Okay. That's in the second link below. Now in the same second link, you can book a tarot card reading with Alexia. She's a very intuitive and a gifted tarot card reader. So if that's something that you're looking forward to, I would look into it. Now at the third link, this is a LUCIFERS foundation course. This course will give you everything it is that you need to know step by step to develop a healthy relationship with the light bearer. Okay. Fourth link is the YouTube memberships. This is where you can join into the Universal Mastery family. So I would absolutely love to have you a part of the community. I would love to see your name appear as green with a little badge next to it and just have you into that family. Okay. So if you're interested in that, I would love to have you there. Now in the fifth link, this is going to be my book recommendations for you. This is for occultists. If you're looking to study occultism and have these fundamental tools always at your fingertips, accessible, that you can always refer back to, you have to look into that fifth link below. All right. Now, with that being said, we're going to wrap it up here. I appreciate all of you very, very much. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of the day or night, wherever you are. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.